With the release of Cryo Artifact come the new Chinese Strong Beam comp, which is the Perma Freeze comp utilizing Kaeya as the main DPS carry. Let's take a look. Hey, welcome back. Today I want to talk about the new Chinese Double Freeze comp, which core member contain of Kaeya Chonyun Xingqiu, and usually a flex spot, but I like picking Barber just because she's provide healing and as a water source and energy for Xingqiu. Now there's a electric variant that do superconduct instead. You can do it by replacing Chonyun with Fischl, and then you can replace your Barber with a ice healer such as Diona or a Chi. So this is the superconduct variant that hit the physical damage instead. The main DPS here is Kaeya, who have another higher ratio on his normal attack. The main thing that powered this team composition is the new Cryo Artifact that gives 40% critical rate against target who is already frozen, which is a lot. On top of that, the two Cryo Elemental Resonance also provide you 15% critical rate against target who are frozen or affected by Cryo. So in total, you're getting 55% critical rate without any stats on your substat or your main stat. However, the first thing we have to establish is that what's our frozen or cryo uptime? Is it possible to keep an enemy permanently frozen? And the answer is yes, demonstrated by here. With proper rotation between your Xingqiu and your Kaeya and between your Chonyun, you can actually keep your enemy frozen at all time. And so this means that you can properly get the critical rate from your artifact set all the time. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, why wouldn't you play Vaporize or Melt composition instead? Isn't Melt just straight up better? The first thing to understand is that Cryo and Fire cannot coexist, meaning that you can only choose between utilizing the 4-stack Cryo bonus or utilizing Melt. You cannot do both at the same time. What it means is that in order to get the 40% critical rate on an artifact, we must sacrifice the 1.5 Melt bonus that we get. This is the cost of using the artifact. Now, if in your head you're still thinking Melt is better, then you actually be correct. Taking a look at this graph right here, this graph assumes that you already have some basic artifacts for 200% attack edge and a decent amount of critical rate and critical damage to ensure the 1:2 ratio. Moving along the x-axis to the right, that is the amount that we keep on investing into our artifact, continue to build up those critical rate and critical damage and ensuring the 1:2 ratio. And all the way at the end, this is actually hitting 100% critical rate, not on the frozen build, but on the Melt build instead. While this is technically impossible because artifact is limited, we included it here anyway. Now, as you can see, according to the orange line above the blue line, the Melt build is actually just straight up better than the frozen artifact for the majority of the part. But this is only if we assume mathematical optimal. In a mathematical world where it only considers about number, it does not consider about any other thing. In other words, most importantly is that it assumes you can hit the Melt on every single hit, which is technically impossible. Now, if we assume we can only hit Melt every other hit, in other 1 every 2 hit, then this is the graph instead, and you can clearly see that the blue outtake orange. Now you can see that the orange line actually grows faster as we progress in our artifact, eventually catching up and taking over when we hit like 90% critical rate and 180 critical damage on our Melt build. Now keep in mind that this is assuming that you can hit Melt every other hit. When it comes to power support such as Goba or Xinyan, it is certainly possible, but it's difficult to do so. And then the gap continues to grow bigger as you cannot land that consistent Melt hit on your target. So pretty much, while theoretically optimally in a mathematical world where you don't take damage and you can properly apply Melt on every single hit, the Melt will be better. But realistic optimal wise, the Cryo Artifact set is actually going to be better and it's worth giving up the Melt for it. So now let's talk about rotation. Start by dropping off your Chonyun ability and your Xingqiu ability. Then switch to your Kaeya to drop his elemental burst followed by his elemental skill. Remember to always use burst first before skill. Then continue attacking as normal. And finally, when your Kaeya ults run out, switch to your Chonyun and drop his Z again. Finally, remember to refresh Xingqiu's water sword when it runs out as well. The physical damage variant of the composition dropped Chonyun for another ice character and add Fischl. Fischl also lets you hit a lot of superconduct, which will reduce the target physical defense. And replacing the Chonyun means that your attack will no longer be converted cryo, so it utilized the physical damage component of your weapon. In terms of rotation, it's pretty much the same. Make sure that you rotate between Xingqiu and Kaeya and your other ice character cooldown to keep the target on perma-freeze. So moving on for the build, for our Kaeya, our weapon option is either the Harbinger of the Dawn or the new event weapon Feasting Desire. Harbinger of the Dawn is really good if you can keep the critical rate passive up, otherwise Feasting Desire might be better. The 5-star one-handed sword Acolyte Familia is a all good choice as well, especially if you're going for the physical damage build. Due to Kaeya passive that regenerate HP when you hit a Z, you can definitely keep the HOD passive up as long as you manage your HP properly. And for the artifact, you want to be running the full 4-set Ballistic Strayer. And for the circlet piece or the headpiece, you want to be looking for crit damage specifically because you already have enough crit rate. And the hourglass, you want to look for attack, and for goblet for cryo damage or physical damage if you're running the physical variant. In terms of substat, you want to look for, again, attack, critical rate, and critical damage. However, be sure that you do not overcap on your critical rate. The critical rate that you get from the artifact and the resonant do not show up in your stat window, so at most, I hit 45 on this critical rate, and that's it. And for your support, starting off with Chongyun, just run any great sword with a lot of attack. The prototype sword is an excellent option. And for the artifact, personally, I really run the 4 noblest set on him for the set effect, especially if you're not running on anyone else. The damage from Chongyun is not really too important, he's just mostly there to cast his field to ensure that Kaeya get the buff. For your Xingqiu, the Sacrificial Sword is the best because it lets you potentially double cast his E, which lets you instantly recast his Elemental Burst again. However, if you do not have it, then any other energy recharge sword will do. For your artifact, you want to run 2 Hydro and 2 Noblest for the Elemental Burst damage and the Hydro damage. Note that energy recharge on your Hourglass is also an option if you really need it. Finally, for your last flex spot, just run the standard build on them. So for example, if you're running Barber, you can run the Dragon Slayer book and the Maiden Healing set. For the Diona, you can run the Sacrificial Bow and the Maiden Healing set, same for Chi-Chi. If you're running a Anemo support such as Venti or Sucrose, then you can just run the VV4 set. And finally, if you're running Fischl, the Stringless would be the weapon of choice, but for the artifact, and this might surprise you, you're actually running the Blizzards again. Now, the reason of this is because the Blizzard set actually apply the critical rate even if Fischl is not on the field. To quickly demonstrate this, currently my Fischl have 47% critical rate, meaning that we're expected to crit every once in 2 hit, including the C6 Fischl bolt. However, notice that in here, once the target is frozen, Fischl no longer misses a critical hit. This is due to the 55% increased crit rate grants from the Resonance and the artifact, totaling up our Fischl all the way to 100% critical rate. However, farming 2 good Blizzard set might not be the easiest thing to do, so in that case, running 2 Gambler and 2 Thunder Inferior is fine. So yeah, there you guys have it. I know you guys asked for me to cover some more Chinese Metacom, and I'm trying to get them out to you guys. So be sure to like and comment and subscribe to make sure you don't miss it, and I'll see you guys next time.